Welcome back, Lance here, and in this video I'm gonna show you the process of creating a complete rock from start to finish. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is to create a mesh object. Any mesh will do because we don't actually need the input mesh. So go to edit mode and delete everything like this. So we end up with an empty object. And then we can create a new geometry node graph like this. And since we don't need the input geometry, we can just get rid of the input. Now it is time to start creating our rock. Go to creator and drop in the create random rock node. Now this node will create a random rock with a random number of faces like this. You can change between the triangulated or faceted mode. The facet mode is a lot slower, but as you can see, it's creating a much more interesting looking rock. And you can change the random shape of the rock using the seed, like this, like this, like this. Let me turn on the timing. So you see the facet mode took 156 milliseconds to generate this particular rock. But let's try the triangulated mode. 78 milliseconds. It's a lot faster, as you can see. And once again, you can change the seed like this to generate a completely different rock shape. You can change the size of the rock using these three parameters. In this particular case, I want to create a rock that is longer in the Z direction. So I'm going to set the width and the length to 2 meters. And I don't need these sharp edges, so I can just increase the size of the edges to something larger like 0.5. This will completely smooth out the edges. And I can lower the mesh density to something small to have denser mesh like this. Let me show you the wireframe. There we go. And let's lower the density some more. And you see, we now have a very dense mesh. But since we are just drafting out the rock right now, we don't need this kind of mesh. So let's increase this back to 0.05 or maybe 0.03. That's better. Now the next step is to displace the rock. So go to displacement and drop in the chip displacement node like this. There we go. And I'm gonna lower the size to 1 and get rid of all the details. Now you should keep in mind that the lowest possible detail level is 1. If you set this to 0, you get nothing. So set this back to 1. And the displacement is a little too much, so I'm gonna lower the intensity to 0.5. Now I also want to stretch the texture in the Z direction. So I'm gonna set the Z value of the stretch parameter to 2. So you see, we now have something, we're starting to get somewhere, but I think the size of the texture is a little too small, so I'm gonna increase the size to 1.5. So now I'm getting somewhere. Let me increase this centered height to 1 to see how it looks. You see, most of the displacement was gone, except for some areas. This is because the centered height displacement will displace the surface both up and down. However, the downward displacement can cause some issue when the mesh kind of cut into itself. So the lowest possible displacement is the original surface level, like this. So when a noise tries to displace the mesh downward and it reaches the lowest possible surface level, it will not displace at all. So for the first displacement node, I'm going to lower this back down to 0 to have only the upward displacement. Now, I'm going to increase this to 3 to show you another issue. Let me turn on the wireframe again. So you see, the mesh is stretched along the displacement direction, and this will cause a lot of problems later on. So in this case, we need to reset the mesh using a processor node called the rock remesh node. It's in the rock processor category. So you can now drop in the rock remesh node like that, and as you can see, it reset the mesh and everything looks uniform once again. But you should set the mesh size to be the same as the mesh density right here. There we go. So I'm gonna decrease the height back down to 0.5. Now this rock is way too smooth So I want to introduce some variation to the surface. And to do that, I'm going to use another displacement node called the noise displacement. And once again, I'm going to lower the size of the noise, but this time I'm going to increase the detail level. And I'm going to lower the height to something smaller, like 0.3, or perhaps even smaller, 0.2. Next, I'm going to introduce some cracks to the surface using the crack displacement node. Now, this crack displacement node will displace the surface downward, so you have to be careful when displacing the rock downward because it might reach the original surface level. So let's move on. I'm going to lower the spread to 0.2, and I'm going to make the noise to be smaller, like 1.5, and I'm going to lower the height to 0.2. Now, if you look closely at the displacement, you can see we have some problems right here. This is because the crack displacement kind of pushed the surface down and it reaches the original surface level, so it canceled the displacement. And you see these glitches right here. So in this case, you have to lower the height to something smaller, like this. But you see, we still have some kind of problem right here. Now, one way to fix this is to just introduce some uniform displacement to the entire rock. And to do that, you can simply increase the height offset right here or here. So I'm going to increase this to 0.1 to add a uniform 0.1 meter displacement to the entire rock, like this. And this is the result after increasing the height offset to 0.1. And this is before. This is after, all right? So now we can add the cracks without any problems, all right? So I'm going to increase the crack details to 6. There we go. So you see, we now have some very nice looking rock, but we are not there yet, because if we go back here and have a closer look at this displacement, you can see these edges are perfectly smooth, and that is not right. Because in reality, these edges will never be perfectly smooth. They should be something like this, right? So we need to break up these edges somehow. And that is the work of this rock distort node in the rock processor category. So drop in the rock distort node. And as you can see, it warped the rock all over the place. But one thing you should keep in mind is that this rock distort node should be used after all the displacement, all right? So I'm going to use it at the end right here. Otherwise, it's going to cause all kind of problems. So reduce the strength to 0.5 or maybe some more, 0.3. That's better. Okay, the rock is now complete. It is time to increase the resolution. So I'm going to lower this to 0.01 and also go back here and change this to 0.01 as well. So now it is time to finalize the rock. Go to the post processor node and drop in a rock to object node. And drop it on the wire like this. Okay, before coming into this node, the data coming out of this node is a rock object. And it has a lot of data that is not needed in render time, and it's gonna eat up a lot of memory. So this node will clean up the unnecessary data and turn the rock object into a regular object. And it also apply a default material. So let's have a look at the default material. You see, right away we have a very nice looking rock already. However, I want to show you how to create a material from scratch. So I'm not going to use this default blue mossy rock material. So go here and create a new material. And go here and select the new material. Okay, we are done with the geometry node graph. And as you can see, we have only 7 nodes. 7 nodes are all it took to create this very high detailed piece of rock. Let's move on to the shader editor. First, I want to create a base color for the rock. So I'm gonna go here and create a RGB node. This is the base color of the rock. And I'm gonna set this to something like dark brown, like so. And let's have a look at the result. The rock is too glossy, it looks almost like it's wet. So I'm going to increase the roughness to 0.5 and lower the IOR level to something lower, like that. Okay. Now, I want these pointy areas to have a brighter color, and Blender just so happened to have the right tool for that. So create a new geometry node, and here we have this pointiness value right here. So let's have a look at the pointiness value. We need to filter some details away. So create a map range node and bring up the from min value like this, and bring down the from max value like this. So now we are able to select just the pointy areas. Create a RGB curve node and connect this map range to the vector of the RGB curve and have a look at the color. Increase the brightness of the color a bit like this and connect this to the base color of the principal material, shader. So you see the rock now has a little bit more details and it looks a little bit more realistic. Now, I want to target these big valleys and make the color darker. And to do that, I can use the ambient occlusion node to select the darker areas, the valley areas. And once again, I'm going to use a map range node to reconfigure the ambient occlusion like this. And I'm going to flip the values, this to 1 and this to 0. All right. So now this is the map targeting the valleys. Next, copy the RGB curve node, but this time lower the brightness of the input color to something like this, and connect this map range node into the vector input, like so. You see, we now have darker color in the valleys, but I think the color is a little too dark, so I'm going to increase the brightness back a little bit. I think this is a lot better, and let's have a look at the final result. And once again, the rock was improved quite a bit. But this is still just a solid color for the base, and that is not right. The rock is made of various minerals all mixed together, so it should have a lot of different colors. So first I'm going to introduce some details to this base color. So go to the texture of the material nodes and drop in a fractal chip node and create a texture coordinate node and plug in the object texture coordinate and have a look at the output texture. Lower the scale to lower the size of the texture. I want it to be something even smaller, like 0.3 or maybe 0.2. And I'm going to increase the details as well. Let's try 4 or maybe 6, maybe 5. Okay. Now I also want to stretch this texture along the z direction. So add a new vector math node and choose multiply. Multiply x and y by 1, but for the z value, use a number within 0 and 1, for example, 0.2. So now that the texture is stretched in the z direction. Now I'm going to use this particular texture to modify this color a little bit. So create a new color mix node, mixed color node, and choose soft light. And I'm going to soft light this texture with the original based color to get something like this. And I can increase the factor to 1 to increase the effect, or decrease the effect by setting this closer to 0. So I'm going to set this to something like that. And let's have a look at the final result. It's a little bit better. You can't really see it, but you can feel it. This is before and this is after. It's a little bit better. But we're not there yet. Now I'm going to introduce some very, very rough noise to this base color. So let's create a noise texture and increase the contrast using a map range node like this, or maybe even more. We'll come back here later to configure this map range node, but right now I want to add some more details to this noise. I can increase this details like this, but this noise is way too uniform no matter how you try to increase the details. So now I want to break up this noise even more. And to do that, I can go to the utility category and drop in a space warp node like this, and connect this vector, the object texture coordinate to the vector input of the space warp node, and connect the output vector to the noise texture. Now this node will bend the space depending on these parameters. And because the space was bent, it's gonna bend the noise texture also. So I'm gonna increase the details to 8 and increase the roughness. And finally, I'm gonna increase the strength of the warp. Look at that. Now we have a very, very dirty looking noise. Maybe we should make it even dirtier, like that. And now it is a good time to go back here and configure this node. You can actually use multiple space warp node to warp the texture coordinate multiple times using different noises. For example, I can set this to something much smaller, like 0.2, and also decrease the strength to 5. And since the noise is very small, I don't need a lot of details. I'm gonna lower this to 4. Now, maybe increase it to something more. That's better. So you see, we now have a very rough looking noise. This is before the breakup, and this is after. You see, this is a lot more interesting, right? And I'm going to use this to drive another RGB curve node to control the color, like so. You see, it's a lot better. But this time I want to decrease the brightness of the color. And I'm going to flip these value 1, 0. You see, the color of the rock is now a lot more interesting. This is before and this is after. This is a lot more interesting. And let's have a look at the final result. Now you can actually keep going and keep adding more details, but for this tutorial I think this is enough. And the next thing I want to do is to introduce some green moss on the faces that point upward like this. So to select the faces that points upward, I'm going to use a select slope node. This node will select the slope of the rock like this, but I need to invert the selection like this and increase the selection to select steeper faces. And I will use this to mix the color like this. So this will be the color of the moss or the snow or the dirt or whatever you want it to be. In this particular case, I'm going to set this to be the moss color like that. But I don't want the moss to cover everything like this. I want some of the original texture to be seen through the moss, right? And to do that, I can simply multiply this with a factor. And I'm going to set this to, let's say, 0.3. You see, it's now a mossy looking rock. And let's have a look at the final result. So, as you can see, this is not a very complicated material. It's actually quite simple. And the geometry node editor is also very simple. Just 7 nodes going from left to right, no branching whatsoever. And we ended up with a very nice, realistic, and high detail rock. And that is the power of the Virtual Quarry. And once again, the Virtual Quarry is part of World Blender. So if you already have World Blender Pro, you can go back to wherever you bought it and download the new Virtual Quarry asset library. And again, if you just want the Virtual Quarry without World Blender, you can buy the Virtual Quarry separately on my Gumroad or my Superhive Market store. I'll put the links in the description. Alright, that is all for today. Thank you for your support and I'll see you next time.